So let me start recording now. Okay, so as I said before, we have Mr. Dapperwhite from Deloitte. He will start our industry partner section of business and finance. Mr. Dapperwhite, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michael, and a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. We actually just had one of the LAUSD high schools in our office yesterday learning about some of the business that we do, and it's a pleasure to be sharing some of that with you all as well. I work at a very large firm called Deloitte, and if you have ever looked at the downtown skyline and saw all of the big buildings, you will see us probably, depending on how you're looking at it, somewhere near the right. We are in the gas company tower. That's actually where I'm speaking to you from right now. I'm on the 27th floor. And it's a great view, even though the sun might be out a little too much for you to see it from here. I do want to spend some time talking to you, not only about what we do, but also my personal journey. Like some people, probably your age, it's kind of hard to see yourself maybe one day working in a really big building or flying across the world or doing important things, but it's definitely possible. And if we can spend some time today, I'd like for you to think about the things that you want to do in your lives. What types of things do you want to accomplish? What types of things do you want to achieve? And that looks different for everybody. Some people like to keep it simple and small. Some people like to go big or go home, and that's okay. I think one of the things that I try to encourage students is to at least explore and experience what you might want, ask questions of people like Michael and your teachers and your counselors, because a lot of us have lived through the same experience and we've had very many of the same questions. And you can learn from the people you meet, whether it be someone like me who's just here kind of giving this experience, or people that you see every day, and that includes your parents and your guardians. So really quickly, I'll tell you, so Deloitte, we are the world's largest professional services firm. And that's kind of a big phrase, so I'll break it down. Professional service is in business, people sell things, right? They have products. And I have this really nice mug from one of the local president museums. They sell this mug. There's a price for this mug, there's a cost for this mug, they have a name for this mug, and this is their product. Well, here at Deloitte, our product is our advice. We are experts in several things in the business world. I would say the first of those is as an auditing firm. Back in 1845, if you could even think that far back, that's 179 years ago, we started as an auditing firm. And as an auditing firm, we do multiple things. I think at the core of audit is making sure that what people say is true, especially as it relates to money. So if a company says that they've made a certain amount, and that certain amount is so good that other people want to invest in that company, we make sure that those numbers are accurate. We also help sometimes government agencies find people who were doing the wrong things with money. That's called forensic accounting, where we help those law enforcement agencies look for financial crimes. Another thing that we do is we help some of the large, like say, entertainment award shows and industry broadcasts make sure that the votes that are being counted, say someone wins an album of the year or best singer of the year, well, who's counting those votes to make sure that those people are actually telling the truth? That's one of the things that we do in that function. So that's our auditing firm, and that again started in 1845. In addition to that, we do four other completely different things in the business world. One of the biggest things that we do is our consulting arm. That's over 50% of the money that we make per year is actually our consultants that go around the world helping large institutions, sometimes high net wealth individuals, maybe sports stars or music stars or movie stars, help to know what they're, one, doing with their resources, including money, maybe help them be better at selling their product or better with their brand. We generally are helping some of those institutions and individuals solve their biggest problems. And if you thought about kind of the world and things that you see on the news or things that your parents might be talking about at home, some of those very things are things that we're working on every day. Another big thing that we do is we have our taxation wing or our tax department. As you can imagine, once you start making money, you will pay taxes, right? Well, a lot of companies pay taxes as well. And let's just say you were a multi-billion-dollar international company where not only you had to pay taxes in certain cities where you might be based, but you actually have to pay taxes in every city that you're based, and sometimes every country that you're based. Well, that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of thinking that someone would have to do to make sure that they're paying the right taxes and doing it on time and doing it the right way. So we have an entire group of people that help some of the largest companies in the world do just that. One of the fun things that I get to do in my particular role, which I'll talk about shortly, is I actually get to lead the people that do our tax processing. And I have two printers in this building that are about the size of these two tables behind me combined. And I remember seeing one tax return last year. It was 54,000 pages. If you probably took every textbook in your school and lined them all up, that's probably about the size of this one tax return that we had for a major company. So that's another thing that we do. Another big thing that we do is our advisory area, our risk and financial advisory. So a lot of you might be on computers right now or using technology in your school. You've probably heard a really big word called cybersecurity, or a big term called cybersecurity. We have a whole group of people that help not only government agencies, but also companies make sure that their technology, their computers, their cell phones, their networks are secure. And that is a constant battle, as you can imagine. So for those of you thinking about technology or interested in supporting those efforts, that's another really big area that we work in. And then one of our fifth groups is called our enabling areas. And that's about 20,000 people that do everything that it takes to keep this place running. And by this place, I mean this firm. So we are in over 150 countries. And I told you we're the largest in the world. We have 457,000 employees across the globe. In the United States, that's 181,000 people. So if you're looking at it globally, let's take the LAUSD. That's, to my knowledge, the second largest school district in the country. We almost have as many people as there are students in the LAUSD school district. So just imagine how large that is and how much effort has to go into planning and arranging and paying for and thinking about travel and marketing and legal stuff, operations. So all of that is handled in our enabling areas. One of the reasons why I bring all of that up is to say the realm of the business world is huge. We do everything. And if you look out of your window, either at school or at home, pretty much everything that you see falls into the business world. Maybe it's a product that you buy or someone sells. Maybe it's real estate that someone sells or leases or rents. Maybe it's even a nonprofit where someone is running that agency to help people in the community or to make the world a better place. Maybe it's a bank. A really big part of the business world is how money is moved and shifted from place to place. Who's managing that, right? Investments. If you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, you will need investors, you will need capital. And there are groups and agencies and companies that do just that. So when you're thinking about the world of business, it can mean anything. It can mean video games. It can mean fashion. It can mean arts and entertainment. And a lot of those different industries are things that we support on a daily basis. Now, How did a person like Dante Apperwhite get to be on the 27th floor in downtown Los Angeles? Well, it began with me just thinking about what I wanted to do and the things that I really enjoyed. And I really enjoyed talking to people just like you. And I started my career out of high school and out of college actually working in hotels. So that's called the hospitality industry. And the hospitality industry includes restaurants and hotels and travel. If you've been to Universal Studios or Six Flags or Disneyland, all of that is included in that massive industry we call hospitality. And I enjoyed what I did. I did that for almost 10 years. And as I was opening hotels and meeting people, I wanted to do more. I wanted to join an organization that could really just let me loose and do some really cool things. And I found a place called Deloitte, and I joined about 5 years ago. And I've been having a blast ever since. As of my role, I am actually the workplace services manager for Los Angeles. So, similar probably to your principal, I manage our different offices in Los Angeles, and I actually have four. This is one of them. It's our downtown Los Angeles office, but I also have one in Manhattan Beach. I have another office in Glendale, and if you've ever been to SoFi Stadium, where the Rams and the Chargers play, next door to that is the NFL building. It's where we do all of our NFL broadcasting. Well, if you look at the top floor, that's the Deloitte Inglewood office. So that would be the fourth office that I get to manage in Los Angeles. We have about 3,000 people that work in LA, and they do everything from supporting some of our major studios, supporting some of our award shows, supporting some of our universities, supporting many of the big companies and government agencies that you see. And as I said earlier, we do all of that to help those people and those organizations be better at what they do. And here's the thing, there's so much work to do that we need more people. So if you're sitting here listening today and anything that I have said sounds interesting, there might be a spot for you one day to do just that. Maybe you have an idea of how the world can be a better place. Maybe you're really passionate about the environment and how we can make more sustainable choices. Maybe you come from a neighborhood that you want to advocate for and you want people to have better paths to economic and social engagement. All of those things have a place in the business world. And I enjoy what I do because when I come here, I get to do things not just to do a job and not just to make money, but I get to do things that, in my opinion, matter and make people's lives better. I actually am a manager. It's one of the fun things I get to do is lead a team. And I get to not only hire them and coach them and develop them, but I get to see them grow in their careers and lead other people and create positive work environments. And there's a lot to be said about careers in business. It can be a lot of work, but it can also be a lot of rewards and a lot of fun. And I know tomorrow we're going to join again. So if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those. So write them down if you're hearing them today or if you get some before tomorrow. But that's who I am and that's who Deloitte is. And it's a pleasure to connect with all of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Apperwhite. That's Dante Apperwhite from Deloitte. I appreciate your time coming in, talking to the students and the teachers about what you do. Thank you so much again, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you. I look forward to it too,
Excellent.
Michael.
Thank you. All right. So now I'm going to bring you on to the second industry expert here. Just to kind of give you an idea about this process a little bit here, let me introduce the second one. So give me 1 second. Hi, my name is Mike Golden, and before before I joined Los Angeles Unified School District 15 years ago, as a teacher, and then as a advisor, and now as an administrator, I spent 25 years in the private sector. So I spent my first 15 of those 25 years with GE Capital, working in California and Oregon. before switching gears in 2000, 2001 into public relations and advertising. So, to share with you a little bit about my experience and what I've gone through, I've kind of put together a few slides here just so you do understand some of the things that I wish I had known when I first started my journey, because I grew up in Los Angeles like a lot of you are growing up now. There wasn't a lot of career talk going on through the schools. They had this thing called regional occupation programming where we took a class for a semester and then that was it, and didn't know a lot about anything else beyond that. But in the financial services divisions of companies throughout the country and throughout the world, what you're looking at right now is a picture, a screenshot of downtown Los Angeles in the financial district. Some of the biggest buildings around house the financial district, and money management, how the money moves through the programs, how the companies take part in this. It's a major player, and like they said at Deloitte, being able to guide companies in their decision-making process, whether it's in money, whether it's in other processes, it's a high demand field to get into. And as Mr.
Hey,
Applewhite said,
Mike.
yeah.
Sorry, not to cut you off, but we are on the building on the left.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's
So we're
awesome.
right there.
So right there, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Deloitte building
Yep.
you can see on the left. Like you said, it's important you enjoy what you do. There was a time and a place in a different era where that wasn't always the case. People kind of went into a company and they stayed there until they retired. That's not the goal. The goal is to find something you enjoy. A brief word before I continue, though, the budgeting, so important. A lot of people don't take the time to budget, whether it's personally or professionally. You need to know your assets, your liabilities, your equity. You need to know what you bring in terms of income and what you have coming out with expenses. If you're just guessing or you're just checking in with the bank to see what the balance is, that's a dangerous way to live, and it's a more dangerous way to operate a business. So make sure you're setting up budgets for yourself. Make sure if you're working for a company that there's a budget in place, because you don't want to have a guesswork and you don't want to hope that things are going out okay. So I talked about integrity during one of the previous meetings, but one thing I wanted to make sure that you all did and you all looked at this is the key to success in any business. It's not the only key, but focus on the pigs. That's an acronym. Each letter in pigs stands for something that's going to be important. So I'm going to try and see if I can't continue this message all the way through. Perception is a big deal in business, not just how you see things, but how people see you. And I'll explain that in a little bit, as well as your interest. You should be interested in what you do. You should look at things from a curious lens. What can you do differently? What do you really enjoy? What would make this process better? You should set goals. You know, sometimes management will have goals for you, but you should also have your own goals. What do I want to accomplish this year? You'd be surprised how many different people in different industries think, well, the boss isn't bothering me with reviews or appraisals or anything like that, so I guess I'm doing okay. You should always figure out what you want to attain, what type of skill sets and what type of accomplishments you want to perform going through the process. And then the last thing is in the pigs is sales. And you could say, that's okay, I'm not into sales. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a researcher. I want to be, trust me, everyone starts off in sales. And I'll explain that in a second. So the first letter in perception, it's pretty basic here. So my perception of you, because I used to hire and fire hundreds of people through my time period at GE Capital, my perception of you is going to be your reality. So how I see you coming in as a potential employee is going to make a big deal, especially on a first impression. You may have heard the statement that a first impression is very important. Absolutely, positively. It is extremely important. Let me give you an example here. This is the same candidate when I open up my office door and I see this one person in 4 different poses. You can see the poses from left to right. The far left being the first pose, second pose here, third pose, and then on the far right is the fourth pose. Which one looks acceptable? Which is the one that I'm most excited to interview if that candidate's out in front of me? Well, if you said the one on the far right, you'd be correct. This person looks interested. It's amazing how a smile can lead a perception to believe this person is genuinely interested in this position. The other three, there's no eye contact. It looks like there's boredom, maybe distracted. It's not a good way to start off things. If I see you the minute I open that door, if I don't see the one on the right, I've already got a negative perception, and then you've got to overcome that as a potential candidate. So keep that in the back of your mind. Another little exercise of perception is we see what we want to see. So right now, if you look at this statement that's in front of you, half of the statement is blocked. So you can guess what that may say. If it looks like the statement says ice cream is good, that's your perception of what it may say. But in reality, it's just gibberish. It's just a bunch of different letters. You'll notice the top half makes it look like it's words like ice cream is good, but the bottom half, when it comes to play, it's just a bunch of letters. So perception is key. You have to make sure you open your mind not to just what you think you see, but how others may perceive things. And then you might find out what it really is might be different entirely. So that's something else I want you to consider. I'm going to tell you a brief story here about my early part of the career back in the 80s, a couple years later. While I was still starting my process in GE Capital, I found out there was an opportunity to sell stocks and securities over at Bateman Eichler Hill Richards. That was an old stock firm back in the day. And I was excited. I heard a lot about the firm. I was eager to do this interview, to go through the process. I went through 2 different interviews, a barrage of tests, passed them all with flying colors, went to their main office in Encino at the time. I was in my early 20s. I was so excited, went up right to the regional director's office and walked right in. And the guy took one look at me and says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm here to take this position. I'm here to show you what I can bring to the table, what I can do for BEHR." And he goes, "I don't hire kids. I hire adults. Come back when you have a family to support. Don't bother me now." And that was the world's quickest interview I ever had. Now, back then, there was no such thing as age discrimination. But I went back to work with my tail between my legs at GE Capital, and I was angry. I didn't realize how angry I was, but at that time, I didn't want to talk to anybody over the age of 30. And I went through my business as usual until my boss here in Southern California pulled me aside, Jerry Marks. He pulled me aside and said, "Golden," because back then everyone addressed each other by last name. He said, "Golden, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting my work done." He says, "Look, nobody wants to work with you. What's your problem?" I said, "I don't have a problem." He says, "Yeah, you do." So I told him the story about Bateman Eichler Hill Richards. And he said, "Oh, I see." So he essentially told me to get over it. And I did. And it was wise advice because we didn't have the internet back then. So, right there, as you can see on the screen, something I found recently was 10 years before my interview. The firm had been accused of stock manipulation. And had we had internet back then and I had seen that, I would have thought twice before going to that firm. So, fortunately, they did me a favor by not finishing that final interview. But at the time, I was really upset. But the point of all this is a perception. Again, the people's perception, my boss's perception of me, my colleagues' perception of me, they thought I was just an angry individual, didn't want to work, didn't want to collaborate. But that wasn't anywhere near the truth. The truth was I was just upset by that experience. And my boss, Jerry Marks, set me straight. A couple years later, I celebrated my 5th anniversary with the company. There I am on the right, complete with the 1989 1990 stash. And Jerry Marks, the former boss over there on the left, that was my 5th year. I would have 10 more anniversaries with the company to go. So it was a great experience. And not only on the perception basis, but also get yourself a mentor. It's amazing what you can do when you have somebody who's already been where you are and where you want to be. It's so, so crucial. So that's the perception end. Now on the pigs, the I stands for interest. Just like Mr. Apperwhite said, you should enjoy what you do. You should have a good time in doing it. That's my old business card, by the way. I moved up from Orange County and I went and took a position as a portfolio control manager with GE Capital out in the suburb of Portland, Oregon, a little town in the suburbs of it, Milwaukee, Oregon. And I spent my next 10 years there. And I was so happy to take on this new role because I worked hard and I cracked the whip and I thought I could get my employees to work as hard as I did. If you have to go, you have to go. Don't worry about it. I know one or two of the schools have to leave with the bell schedule, and that's fine. But I have this on recording. So a couple days into that new responsibility and working with my team, the regional manager came to visit me in the office and said, Golden, remember they talked by last name back then. He goes, there's this Dale Carnegie program out in Beaverton, Oregon, which is about west of Portland. And he says, I want you to do this. I want you to do this Carnegie program. It's a couple days a week. It's after work. You're going to spend a couple hours each day. He says, I think it's important for you. And I said, gee, that's awful nice of you, John. John DeMonica wanted me to do this. And I said, but we just bought our house. I got a kid on the way. I'm trying to get the house ready after work. It's not really a good time. At which point he looked at me and he said, I'm not asking. And when you hear I'm not asking back then, that's another way of saying you need to do this or you're fired. So I realistically figured, okay, I'm not doing something right. So under duress, I initiated this program with the Dale Carnegie thing. And I can tell you, I'm not a spokesperson for it. I'm not getting paid for it, but it was an amazing experience. A lot of the things that I had to be reminded of, things that I had already done when I was younger, were a big reminder throughout this program. So I went ahead and started looking at the 30 principles of the program. And you can find this on the web too. These are things that are out there, things that I learned sometimes in grade school. Smiling, again, you're so much more approachable when you smile. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Give honest, sincere appreciation. I won't read all these, but that's a huge one. The last thing an employee wants to know, the last thing a client wants to know, if you're in business for yourself, is, hey, good job. Good job, John. Good job, Maria. No, they want to hear something specific. What did I do that was so great? You know, um, throw down a challenge, talk in terms of other people's interests. I took all this information back with me to the office and I developed the program so well with this stuff that within the first year, I had the #1 productive unit on the West Coast, and I had the lowest turnover throughout the entire country by the end of the second year. And half of my staff were part-time, and people wanted to know how I did it. It was very simple. We had people going to college who were working part-time. Their goal is to go in the medical field or another field. I found that we could still utilize them. There was no reason for me to be upset with the fact that they had other goals and ambitions later on. Let me utilize their strengths now and show them how it ties into their future career. And they became the world's greatest employees while they worked for me. And I became, at least at that time, the world's greatest boss. Um, okay, it's a little bit biased, but that's how I saw it. So And the company did really well. At the height of our field there, we had 40% of all of GE's revenue. And at that time, it was the largest company in the world. And so I was able to enjoy many 3 and 4 for 1 stock splits. So before I went into PR and advertising, I already built a pretty sizable nest egg. So knowing these 30 principles was huge. It was extremely well. Now, in order to do that, in order to really focus on that, I had to think outside the box. I had to think, okay, I can't just think the normal way and how do I make this happen on a short term basis, but what can I do for the big picture? And to give you an idea of what that is, you got to be curious. You have to really think, okay, what else is there? What am I missing? What else could I do? Talk to other people, find out what they like, what they don't like. That's all important. I had to look at questions in a different way. And what do I mean by looking at questions in a different way? Well, check out this question, for example. Okay, you pass a bus stop when you're driving on the road during a rainstorm. You see 3 people waiting at that bus stop. Okay, and there's the 3 people that are listed. Your car only has 2 seats. You're sitting in one as a driver, so who would you choose to help? Well, the initial reaction might be you're going to choose 1, 2, or 3. However, if you think outside the box, if you become creative with this, you'll soon realize you can help all 3 of them. Well, how do I do that? Okay, so you help your elderly neighbor into the car, you hand the car keys to your friend to drive the elderly neighbor home, and you wait with your older sibling for the bus. Now, that's not the traditional sense of answering the questions, but hopefully you get my meaning on this, in that you always want to be creative. You always want to look for a better way of doing things. Don't become complacent. Okay, always look for that better way. And you will be if you enjoy what you do, if you find that career. So that's the P and the I and the pigs. The G stands for goal. Without a goal, you're just going through the motions. You're just going in day by day and you're looking forward to Friday night, and you're looking forward to getting together with friends, and you are thinking TGIF. Thank goodness it's Friday. You're not thinking TGIM. Thank goodness it's Monday. When you start thinking about, oh my gosh, it's almost Monday, I can't wait to get back to work, that's because you've set goals and you're trying to achieve those goals. Don't wait for your boss to tell you what your goal is. Don't wait for your customers. They're not going to tell you what your goal is. You need to have your own goals. And the best way to set a goal is to have a SMART goal. Now, there's different levels of goals, but I'm not going to get into all details. But a SMART goal, the word SMART is also an acronym like the pigs. Each letter stands for something. So to have a truly SMART goal, we want to have all 5 letters in play in order to confirm that the goal is really a SMART goal. Let me give you an example here. Let's say you create a goal that says, I want to make $1 million this year. So is that a SMART goal? So let's take a look at the first letter, S. Is it specific? Excuse me. Yes. Is that $1 million pretty specific? Is it measurable? Okay, that's the M for measurable. Yeah, I guess if I look at it and did I make $90,000 this month? If I did, I'm on the way to making $1 million by the end of the year, if I average it out. Is it attainable? Now, when you become 15 and a half in a few years, you'll be able to get a worker's permit. You'll probably get a part-time job. Is $1 million attainable with your part-time job at Subway or at Vons? Probably not. Probably not even close. You're just learning you're learning to get your steps here in the working world. So it's not attainable. Right now, that's not even a given. Even a professional athlete isn't guaranteed to make $1 million this year when they start off. Is it relevant? That's what the R in SMART stands for. Well, the goal, you said, I want to make $1 million, but you didn't say what you were going to do. So how is it relevant? What's your plan? What are you talking about doing in terms of a career? What is the work that's going to bring in that money? If you don't mention that, it's not relevant. And then the last part in SMART is time based. We said this year, so it is time based. So 3 out of 5 means it's not a SMART goal. You need all 5 pieces in there to make it a SMART goal. So keep that in mind. What might be a SMART goal? I want to get hired by Deloitte by the end of this year in an entry level position. And I know that Mr. Apperwhite can make that happen. No, I'm not going to put the pressure on there, but I want to get hired by Deloitte. So that's a SMART goal. I could say that's very specific. It's measurable because if I want to do it by the end of the year, I could see how my progress is between now and then. Is it attainable entry level? It's possible. Okay. Is it relevant? Absolutely, to what you're trying to do. And is it time based? Yeah, you're talking about the end of the year. So let's take a look at that. Well, for every goal, you need action steps. Otherwise, you're just throwing out a goal out there and what you plan to do. So when you're talking about a goal, you need to think, okay, what am I going to do to achieve that? And you might say, I'm going to talk to people at Deloitte to see what they like best about the place and where they think they don't like, or where do they think the opportunities lie. Where do they think things can be improved? I also want to do some research and see what opportunities may grow the best so that I can bring that information with me and put it into a cover letter to try and at least get my foot in the door. So there's 2 action steps that you can put down to try and achieving that goal. Now, there's no guarantee it works, but that's better than throwing a dart at the board and hoping that, well, I'll just send them this resume and I hope that that works without doing anything else, because I'll explain that in just a few minutes here. But those action steps, very important. Those are the steps that you need to take. A work review is something that once you're in position in the business, they're looking at doing maybe once a quarter if you're lucky, and they're seeing how you're doing with your job, where's your strengths, where's your opportunity areas. And an annual appraisal also is something that they look at your goals and action steps and see how you're doing with those, as well as the goals and action steps of your department and how you fit into that, and to see if you're on task and on process with that. So, again, very important to know where your direction is and are there adjustments that need to be made. So, consider all that. And if you work for a company or you're the boss where nobody's writing an appraisal for you and nobody's doing a work review, don't wait for somebody to do it and just say, well, they're not doing it, so I guess I'm doing okay. Write your own appraisal. Talk about the strengths that you've accomplished and your accomplishments. Why would you do that? For one thing, you can see how you were doing on par. Another thing is you can use that information to pitch a potential raise or a promotion to your boss, because now you have some facts and data and you're not waiting for them to look at it. You're providing it to them. You're letting them know, I'm on track. Here's why I'm on track. So these are all pieces of information, again, that I wish I knew when I was your age before I went ahead and did it. So the last piece to this puzzle in pigs, you've already heard perception, you've heard interest, you've heard setting goals on the goals, and here's the last one, sales. And like I said before, you'd say, I'm not going into sales, I'm going into science. I'm going into this, I'm going into law enforcement. Well, guess what? Everyone begins their career in sales. How is this possible? Well, it's very simple. You have to convince somebody to hire you. Guess what? You're selling your services to that company. Why should they hire you? Why should they bring you on board? That's also a question they're going to want to know. And I could tell you straight off, again, going back to this image, the person on the far right, even though it's all the same person, if she shows me that image on the far right when I walk out the door and I'm going to interview her, she's already selling me on why I should hire her. If she poses in one of those other 3 poses, it's already not a good sale. and she's going to have to make it up later on down the road. So keep that in mind. On some final notes, I told you I would talk about this in terms of how this all plays out. Companies do not want people who want to work. Let me repeat that statement. Companies do not want people who want to work. Instead, companies want people who want to work for them. If you're just opening a business door like people used to do back in my day when I was in high school, and people would go to the mall and they go, "Hey, you got any jobs available?" No, okay, thanks. They go to the next office and go, "Hey, you got any jobs available?" I'm not interested. You know, when I worked my way up to partner in a PR and ad firm, and we had a small business, but we had clients that were actually uh, on retainer. We had clients in the wings waiting, and there was a waiting list because we wouldn't add more people. And the reason why we had a waiting list and we were so successful was that we always gave clients more than what they asked for. If they wanted an ad, we ran three. We showed them more than what they wanted to get, and we had repeat business. It's a lot easier to keep repeat clients happy than it is to go out and get new ones. And my partner and I were very fortunate to work with each other. My partner retired. I decided to do the same thing. The only problem was my partner was 65, I was 40. I wasn't ready to retire yet. That's where teaching came in. I was bored. I didn't prepare for retirement. Financially, I was fine, but mentally, I wasn't ready. So I fell in love with teaching, but that's a different story. Um, One thing I could tell you is that if you're going to go work for somebody, they want to know why them? Why are you choosing them? If you can't answer that question right away, you've already lost some points. You want to be able to tell them why you want to work for that firm. You know, there's 50,000 different agents in State Farm that sell insurance to the public. I can buy an insurance policy from any one of them. Why would I want to go to one versus the other 49,999? That's the job of each agent to be able to sell me on why I should hire them. Just like it's your job, if you want to go work at a firm, why they should hire you. So keep that in the back of your head. That's all important. Remember, focus on the pigs, the perception, the interest, the goal, and the sales. So I hope to see everyone tomorrow during our Q&A panel discussion. We're going to bring back Mr. Apperwhite. We're going to bring back myself. We're going to bring back Professor Molina from East Los Angeles College. Um, we're going to bring back Mr. Celia from Downtown Business Magnet. And we're going to bring back Mr. Rivera from Garfield High School. So we'll see you again at 10:50 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day. I appreciate you for coming in. And thank you again. And I think I said Mr. Molina, but actually it's Professor Medina. So my apologies, Leo, but we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thanks a lot and take care, everyone. Thank you so much.